Hey everyone. Today we're going to be chatting about leveraging the creator economy to drive results, and I'm joined by Tapalti. So first off, before we get into this, it's important to understand sort of where we're coming from. So Evan, you're senior marketing manager at Tapalti. Can you talk about your relationship with the creator economy and why you're so passionate and interested in it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you having us on here today. So as Michael said, my name is Evan Heby. I run industry and partner marketing for Tapalti. I've been here for about 2 years. Previous to that, I worked at NetSuite, an ERP company, cloud ERP company that many of you might be familiar with, for over 5 years. So I've spent a good portion of my career, the past 7+ years, in the fintech world. And with regards to the creator economy, that's an area that Tapalti and Everflow together are focusing on growing our brand's presence in over the next several years, and an area that we've historically been really a good fit for clients as well. So we'll talk about some of those specific industries throughout today's conversation, but I think what's really important is to note at the top is that the creator economy isn't anything novel or brand new. It's been around a really long time. We've just changed the nomenclature around it. It was influencer marketing was hot for the past few years. And before that, it was affiliate marketing, obviously something that Everflow specializes in. But now the term the creator economy starts to blend some of those areas together. The lines between what an influencer does and what an affiliate does and what a creator does aren't as hard and drawn in the sand as they used to be. So I think what we're seeing is that creator economy encompasses a lot of these niche industries that used to be looked at in silos. They've come together and combined them into one. So we're really passionate about it. There's some key industries from gaming to, like I mentioned, affiliates, ad tech, and beyond that we think are involved in the creator economy to a certain extent. And so we're really excited for this economy, this ecosystem to continue to grow so that both Tapalti and Everflow can really support them in their future growth and ensure that they are ready to scale, ready to take the next step in their growth.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunity. We'll sort of deep dive into some of those topics in a bit. And just to introduce myself, I'm the head of marketing at Everflow, and I come from a pure performance and user acquisition background. So I've seen how to scale both traditional affiliate partnerships, mobile publishers, media channels, et cetera, and drive results and performance. So I'm going to be talking more about the sort of onboarding and performance pieces of this. All right. So first off, let's sort of define, like, we know that the creator economy is getting bigger and bigger in terms of what it encompasses. But if you were going to have someone who didn't know anything about, like, what are sort of these like new wave of like creators, like, what do they look like? What kind of companies, what kind of people are this sort of like more passionate fan creator?
Definitely. I think it's a great question. And we're often asking, what is the creator economy? Who's involved in it? And I think more specifically, as you've asked, Michael, it's important to kind of understand who the creators specifically are themselves. Before I jump to that, I did want to give a little bit of context that we've done some research around this ecosystem and some stats that we have to share, if that's all right. So what we've
Perfect.
found is that more than 50 million people globally are content creators, and the market size could easily grow to over 104 billion in 2022. Today, the market size is closer to about 50 to 60 billion, but we see that the opportunity for growth is really strong, particularly because investors poured in a record 1.3 billion into the space last year, and about 800 million of that came directly from venture capital funds. So we are seeing a huge investment in this space, and we'll continue to talk about some of that investment in later slides, but particularly when it comes to creators themselves. A creator can be anything from a streamer on Twitch to a photographer on Flytographer to an artist on Etsy to a content creator posting to Medium, and everything in between that you can think of. The way that I really think of it and contextualize it is there's so many people out there today that have side hustles that are creative outlets or content outlets for them from their normal day-to-day job. And those are the types of people that are more often than not, or more often than the past, are starting to try to potentially have their entire revenue stream come from their passion, their creative side hustle. So I think it's really important to note that there's more and more people moving towards making their side hustle their main gig. And more often than not, that's a creative side hustle, something that's part of the creator economy. And then, you even can think of companies like Uber and Lyft. Of course, their drivers aren't necessarily creators, but they're for sure part of that gig or that sharing economy, which I think falls into the wider creator economy, especially as companies like Uber or Lyft expand out into the eats scene or the restaurant delivery scene, where they actually have chefs and people that are creating new foods, new dishes for people to try. Those are really the creators that work with those larger companies. So I think it's a vast industry, and something that's fascinating just from the standpoint of the number of different types of creators out there, and the different types of activities that they're doing to earn money and build up their brand, and really start to become, entrepreneurs of one is how I view these creators. And the best ones, the Mr. Beasts of the world, they're getting brand sponsorships all over the place, and starting to grow their brands well beyond their core offerings, whether it's photography, streaming content, art on Etsy, or beyond.
Yeah. I think the other thing that I want to mention on is just, I think that when these creators are starting off, it tends to be intrinsic, and sort of the goal of working with them is to get them to extrinsic. So what I mean by that is intrinsic, like when they're starting off, it's a side hustle, it's a passion project. They don't really know how to make money with it, and maybe money isn't the goal, it's just a creative outlet for them. And as they build followings and they become more successful, it takes more and more of their time. And at some point, it has to go from sort of being about passion to about being able to sort of replace their day job or become their main focus. And that requires this moving of like, I'm doing it for passion, to I'm doing it because I enjoy it and I'm making enough money that I'm able to sustain itself. And so the sort of like, there's that constant battle of like how you transition over there in a way that feels authentic to all sides. And we'll dive into this stuff more as we go along. So you mentioned a little bit, but can you talk a little bit more about sort of like how fast this economy is expanding, and sort of like you mentioned there's a lot of like investor dollars going in, like where are those going? Like what do those companies look like, and how are they working with this?
For sure. Yeah. And I spoke about some of the investor dollars. Like I said, about $1 billion, $1.3 billion poured in last year, 800 million of that coming from VC investment. And I think what we're seeing is two things, right? One thing is new companies that are popping up that we've never seen before. I mean, at this point, TikTok, I don't think you could call them a new company, but obviously one of the most well-known businesses that has really capitalized on this creator economy, really has probably the strongest grouping of any company in the world, of a aggregate of creators, all creating all different types of content, from food content to fashion content and well beyond, on one particular platform. So I think as a business, TikTok is a good example of the arc, the story arc, if you will, of the growth of the creator economy. What I'm seeing as well is understanding that these platforms that enable creators are needing to really ensure that they have the best in class options for their partners, for their suppliers, for the creators, for the people that make their platforms great. They need to have a best in class experience for them. So Michael, you just flipped the slide. Appreciate that, because it goes really well with my talk track here, is just around, there's all different types of companies that are involved in this creator economy, whether they're creators specifically in that first column, like the Robloxes of the world or the DistroKids of the world, where you can either be a developer to create a new world within Roblox, or you can be a music producer and post beats on DistroKid. But then that transfers over into other areas, like into ad tech, into marketplaces, into the sharing economy. And what I think we're seeing there is that creators are striving to have authentic brand partnerships and relationships that aren't just one-offs. I think in the past, we've seen a lot of one-off relationships where you might be on Canva and you might be do a one-off partnership with them to promote something that you're selling around Mother's Day, since that's coming up. But what we've seen is that creators aren't looking for those one-time relationships as much anymore. They want to partner with brands that align well with their target audiences, align authentically with their target audiences, and they're not just one-off relationships. The person I think of is like Shaq. Shaquille O'Neal is on every product under the sun, whether it's Icy Hot, or I believe there was even some sort of like pregnancy test or something like that he was doing as sponsored ads for. But in the creator economy, that doesn't work. As soon as you kind of take on sponsorships that are out of that wheelhouse, that are outside of the core of what your audience expects from you, you sort of start to lose that authenticity. So relating back to the first part of the question, and where's that money being poured into, where's it being spent? I think we're seeing two things: companies that are popping up, new companies that are popping up. Like I mentioned, some of the companies that are growing and really doing well today, but also legacy companies that are implementing new business models that adhere to this creator economy, that are doing new sponsored types of activities, doing new associative type of activities, because they need to keep up with their counterparts, those new businesses that are coming in and eating their lunch, for lack of a better word. So we're seeing both legacy companies start to transition and maybe make acquisitions to be a part of this creator economy, as well as brand new companies coming out with new innovative revenue streams to play into this world. So I think we're seeing a balance of both of those. And as long as the money continues to flow, we'll continue to see that as well.
So let's drill a bit into that just to make sure that it's clear for everyone watching. So can you talk about some sort of like the most base use case of just sort of like a game company? How are they working with creators? Like, what does that relationship actually look like? What's actually happening in that situation?
Yeah, for sure. And let's go back to potentially like the Roblox example, because I think it's a strong one that a lot of people know about. So Roblox, if you're not familiar, just a very brief overview of what it is that they do. They essentially have an application or a game that you can go into, and there's hundreds, if not thousands, of games that you can choose from that you can play within the Roblox world. Roblox essentially has set up their own metaverse. So there's a lot of interaction that can go on the platform. They also have their own currency called Robux, which is a way that you can transact to buy things on the platform and to make your character better, to make your gameplay better, and everything like that. So a lot of in-game apps and in-game purchasing that you can do there. Roblox works with creators and developers very heavily. So in order for Roblox to continue to grow and expand, they need developers to continue developing games, continue developing new skins, new outfits, new options for players to buy on their platform. So I think the biggest thing there is working with a company like Roblox as a developer. You prioritize working with them over someone else if you have a great experience all around. So obviously Roblox is a leader in terms of building out this kind of new creative gameplay via the metaverse. It's not something that hasn't been around, but something that they've perfected. But I think as long as Roblox continues to provide that really treating their creators like their customers type of experience, that's going to continue to propel them as a leading brand in the gaming and in this metaverse space. So it's kind of a two-sided coin. They need to work, Roblox needs to find the right developers to help promote their platform. And in order to maintain and retain those developers on their platform, they need to provide them with a great experience so they don't go to a new platform or another platform to develop the games that they would normally have developed for Roblox. Does that clarify it a little bit, or should we drill in even further, you think, Michael?
I think that's pretty clear. And I think it's just sort of that the creators often are not like, they're not promoting Roblox itself. They're promoting some sort of virtual good or something inside of Roblox. I think that's the other big piece of it, is what are they actually promoting? It like completely changes it, because it's very hard to be authentic and be like, hey, like sign up for this B2B software as like a gamer, like streamer. Like that's not a natural fit. Like it has to be something that is something that they can genuinely be excited about and then talk to their audience about or create around where they're producing stuff and it feels natural. So it's sort of connecting it like the blocks together so that they all feel like authenticity. I mean, we'll talk about this more, but that's obviously the essential of like piece of it. And then the other part is like if like say it's like a LinkedIn influencer who's very popular there, it's completely natural for them to talk about signing up for business software because it's a natural connection between what they normally talk about and what they're promoting. And I think that's a big piece of it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree
So can you
more.
talk a little bit about sort of like these marketplaces and sort of
Mhm.
like where they fit in with like creators?
Yeah, definitely. So we sort of see the creator economy split up into four main ecosystems. And we see that all four of these are types of, all four of these ecosystems have subsets of industries underneath them. But we all see that they have new, not necessarily brand new, but innovative or modern, or you could even say new in some cases, new ways of monetizing or collecting revenue. So starting from the left and going right from there is we see them in, as I said, four buckets. So creator, ad tech, marketplace, and sharing. And what we've noticed is that all four of these ecosystems have subsets of industries underneath them. But aside from that, they all have different ways of interacting with their end partners, whether that's a creator, a developer, a streamer, an artist, a driver, a producer, or beyond. So what we see here is that these are some of the big areas where the creator economy is being impacted. And we see that that same thing that I mentioned earlier with legacy companies getting changing their business models and jumping into new areas, as well as new companies coming into the fold to start up and disrupt what's currently going on in those ecosystems. So what I think is really important to note about these is that the companies that are winning are the ones that are providing a best-in-class experience, not only for their customers, but for their partners. Because let's use Medium as an example, one that I talked about very briefly before. For Medium to be a great resource for people to continually go on and read on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, or whatever it might be, they need contributors or writers to continually contribute their content to the website. Without that contribution, they're not going to be able to attract the same audiences that they have. They're not going to be credible in terms of the type of content that they're producing, and they're going to really have a hard time attracting new readers or maintaining the readership that they currently have. So what we really see here is a little bit of a FOMO opportunity. Is if you're not providing a best-in-class partner experience to the writers on your platform, as an example, then they'll leave for a different platform. Maybe they'll go start writing for The Athletic if they have sports type of content and Medium is not cutting it for them. So what we see here is that in order for you to retain and continue to grow your platform and your brand presence, you need to have that a great experience for your partners. And that's for Tipalti, obviously, selfishly, we know that a big part of that, and for Everflow as well, we know a big part of that is the payments piece, is ensuring that payments are done on time and accurately. And I know for Everflow, you can support them in a number of other ways, including helping them, manage their affiliate programs and things like that. So what we see is that these types of companies are often struggling with managing that partner experience. And what we want to do is, in order to help them grow and help them continue to be a big player in the creator economy, help them at least organize or have some sense of organization around some of the logistics processes that can be really, really tricky for creators to manage on their own.
Yep. And we'll talk a bit about that later on of sort of like why does it matter?
Yep.
Because I know you have some shocking stats there of what happens when you don't get it right.
Mhm.
All right, let's continue. So first off, from your experience, like what kind of like offers or products actually work well for creators? Because from the broad set, but if you were trying to start a creator program from the very beginning, like what would you sort of like want is the base thing that you can get them to start like passionately promoting, or like who is doing it right, and like what is the first thing that they are getting them to passionately promote?
Yep. I think this is a great question and something that we think about a lot as not only as a company at Tipalti, but also we think about it in the lens of our prospects and our customers. What do they think about when they're looking for their next creator, or where they're trying to recruit people or trying to retain the current creators on their platform? What makes them a good fit, and why or why not? So one of the things that I think you already mentioned that really, really resonates with me is around authenticity. So in order to reach audiences, and consumers are smarter than ever before. They have so much access to information. They have so much access to reading new things in the news, in the media, in Twitter. And sure, some of that can be conflicting, and it can be sort of difficult to sort through what's true, what's not true, what take a creator might have had 10 years ago that's maybe problematic today, or what take they had recently on their Twitter that they got that they were in the spotlight for. So what I think is really, really important is just understanding who your target audience is with a campaign. So once you understand who that target audience is, you don't always need the most flashy creator or influencer to support that campaign. It doesn't need to be someone who has 50,000 or 100,000 or 1 million followers. It can be someone with a much smaller following, but someone that is much more applicable to the needs that you have. So for example, if your company sells baby products or something like that, it would be great, obviously, to have a LeBron James post about your newest product. But what's that going to cost you, and what's the return on investment going to be compared to if you had 10 individual moms in different cities that host like focus groups or networking groups with other moms? So who is the type of people that are actually going to authentically be able to help you reach the niches that you're searching for? So comparing like a LeBron James obviously has an awesome, massive following, and you'll definitely get great, no matter what your product is. I could almost guarantee that you'll get some ROI from investing with in a campaign with LeBron, but that's going to cost you hundreds of thousands, if not more, money, as compared to identifying the right niches of people that'll help you kind of push your product forward. So I think a good fit for creators is first finding a brand that understands who your audience is and doesn't stray too far away from that. Another example is like if you're a vegan creator and you hang your hat on having all raw food, health food on your Instagram, on your TikTok profiles, and then you decide to do a partnership with a fast food chain, that's sort of shooting yourself in the foot. So maybe it's a brand new vegan fast food chain, and maybe that makes a lot more sense then. But it's just understanding as a brand, when you're going after certain creators, understand what their niche is, what social platforms or what platforms they normally are using. If someone's normally a TikTok creator, asking them to do something on LinkedIn isn't going to be impactful. So understand who their audience is and what niches they play into. And then I think for a creator, we talked a little bit about this, and I won't tease it out too much, but finding the platforms that are going to invest in you and that are prioritizing that you don't have to worry about the logistics. You don't have to worry about the compliance issues. You don't have to worry about the tax issues. A good business partner for creators handles all of that for you. And so understanding that as a creator, I think the tables have turned a little bit. In the past, creators only had a few options for where they could create. It was basically YouTube and that's it. Today, there's so many more options for them that companies like YouTube, companies like TikTok, companies like Instagram are starting creator funds that are actually giving money to creators based on the volume of watch content that they have, or based on the views that they have on certain videos, and not taking a dime out of that for at least the next 12 to 18 months. So what we're seeing is that the tables have turned. The platforms want the creators to stay, and now the creators are in the driver's seat. They have the ability to be a little bit more picky. So I think a few things that I mentioned that are worthwhile looking at is just understanding like how much of a heavy lift do you need to do in order to run your business with this platform? Are they going to handle everything from a tax perspective? Are they going to handle everything from a payments perspective? Are they going to handle everything from a compliance perspective? I think those are great questions that creators should start asking if they're not already thinking about them.
Yeah, I think what to boil that down, sort of like what's a good fit is like look at the audience that you want to reach, look at the creators that are already reaching that audience, and then it's if it's a good fit audience wise and creator wise for the product that you have, then it's natural for them to have that conversation with their audience, in which
Yep.
case you just need to build a type of offer that they can share and be authentic and be passionate about. And that's what's going to actually get them to be able to actually get started with you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I couldn't have, I think you boiled it down perfectly.
Cool. And sort of very similar to that topic, how are you seeing the sort of companies attracting creators to actually start working with them in the first place?
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's a couple of things. Obviously, one thing that I've noticed is, and it's becoming more and more popular, is the fact that it's not rare today, but it's still not commonplace for creators to be able to go out on their own and make their entire revenue stream from not simply, but from creating across platforms. I think what's going to propel that and increase the number of creators out there that are making their sole income from their creative outlets is the fact that brands and sponsors are going to start looking into longer term partnerships with creators. I think that many creators and influencers or artists are less inclined to do one-off types of engagements, and they're more inclined to do annual engagements or quarterly engagements, sort of how you think about like an agency, an AOR, an agency of record in the past, where you couldn't hire an agency most of the time to do a single one-off project. They had to be on retainer. And I think that's how we're going to start to see the creator economy shift, is that there's going to be creators that basically become consultants for businesses, and they work on them cross projects. Maybe they were originally hired for a very specific project and they were hired to reach an audience that was really, really difficult for that brand to reach. But they discover that through this niche audience, they can expand into other audiences that they'd never been able to reach previously either. So I think the biggest thing is having an open mind as a brand to the types of partnerships that you're willing to test out. Really not opening up more options, whether sure, you might just want a specific creator for one project, but giving them more options to consult or contribute to other projects that are opening up down the road. And then not to mention what I said previously is that creators should be looking for the partners that are making their lives easier. So partners that have the right tools in-house already, the right financial management tools, the right payments tools, the right tax tools, to make it easy for the creator to work on their platform. They don't want to have to do all that additional logistics work. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of times these creators are entrepreneurs of one or businesses of one. They need to limit the number of, I'm trying to think of a better word, but limit the number of annoying tasks that they have to do to maintain their business. Most of the time, not finance people, most of the time, not tax experts. They need to find the partners that have those tools already in place that make their lives easier to focus on content creation, not on the rest of the things that you need to run a business.
Yeah, I totally understand that one super well. I did a conference series on the side for a while, and just handling the accounting and finance for that was like such a headache when it's already 4,000 things you need to do. And
Yep.
when it's a small project, you can't really it doesn't make sense to have an outside accountant for that. It just means
Right.
that you're doing a bunch of spreadsheet work, which is never fun. One thing I wanted to talk about there is sort of like, I think that podcasts are a good example of sort of where the future is heading for all creators, because like the YouTube world and a lot of the worlds around that, like there was always advertisement and it always had some money. Often it wasn't enough money for them to actually make this into like a full-time thing, but it was enough money where they didn't push for more. It was like, okay, I made a couple $100. I'm just going to keep doing this on the side. If you look at like podcasts, they tend to be like that 6-month sponsorship. The ad plays every time. It's in their voice of like promoting it. Like that's a big leap forward in terms of like the amount of money that's going through it and the value, because I mean, I've bought at least 5 different products because a podcast promoted it. Like, that's an authentic voice promoting something where I'm like, well, if they like it or they're willing to rep it and it sounds like something that fits them well and that they're excited about it, like, might as well get that product instead of a competitor product. So I think we're going to see that with all sorts of creators as they also build these like loyal ongoing followings. Cool. So we talked, I mean, you mentioned some of the stuff with motivating creators. I do want to, you mentioned one thing in there that I wanted to sort of unpack a bit more, which was sort of, you mentioned like having the creators consult for you or sort of like be involved with your own marketing or decision process. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's like outside of the money angle of it, like that's another way you can motivate them is sort of like helping amplify their brands. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And it's something that Tapalti as a business is working through ourselves. But I'm going to use an example to talk about it a little bit further. And the best example that I've seen of how to authentically motivate creators and really extend that brand partnership well beyond whatever it is that you're working on during that specific point in time is there's a lot of companies out there today, many of which Tapalti works with, that are gaming or esports consultancies. Gaming and esports, gaming obviously been around a really long time. Esports really sort of coming into its own in the past few years around how much money is in the space, the fact that it's almost getting comparable with the type of market cap that you would see on a pro sporting league like the NFL, NBA, La Liga, all that kind of stuff. So we're starting to see esports really emerge. And the reason I mention that is esports consultants or esports agencies are starting to become a very, very common thing for these types of companies. So really what an esports agency or an esports consultant will do is they'll work with brands that are trying to get into the space. So let's think of maybe like a Pepsi or Coca-Cola. They might want to, sponsor a League of Legends tournament or something along those lines, but they don't know any creators, any gamers that would be a good fit for that. But an esports agency most certainly does. And what that agency also knows is what motivates those creators themselves. And how they know that is they spend time, just like an agency would, getting to know their clients and getting to know what it is that they like. So maybe they have a client on their roster that drinks a Red Bull every time before they turn on their Xbox or PS4. Or maybe they have a gamer that drinks Coca-Cola every time they turn on their Xbox or PS4 and they're, snacking on Doritos or something like that. So agencies are, we've seen them not die, but we've seen the classic agency brand relationship dwindle in some areas. But I think we're going to start to see it become a great touch point between the creators and the brands that are, for lack of a better term, a little bit clueless when it comes to connecting with the right people. So I think esports is a good example of that. One of our clients, Rumble Gaming, does an excellent job of connecting the specific people in gaming, the top gamers, the top streamers, with the right brands to ensure that they have a great relationship and connection. And what they do an amazing job of is they not only recommend one specific campaign, but they also recommend how they can work together into the future. Because like I said, creators, they'd love to get a sponsorship from their favorite drink or from their favorite food or whatever it might be. But having that as a one-off partnership is not going to support the long-term needs of their goals of being a full-time creator. Having a partnership that extends beyond one specific activity and perhaps includes, participation in a new commercial that they're rolling out, or participation in a new ad campaign they're rolling out, or being featured on billboards that they might be doing for out-of-home advertising. That's really important. And I think that the thing that you said that is really, really critical for listeners to latch on to is the fact that a lot of the times these creators are hoping to increase their brand presence as well. So working with a well-known brand is not only increasing their exposure and helping the brand sell more of their product, it's also increasing the creator's exposure and making them more of a go-to person in new areas that they wouldn't have had that opportunity to do in the past. So I really see this as a two-way street, a partnership that, the creators should feel motivated by brands, but the brand should feel motivated that the creator can help them reach beyond the target audience that they're looking for as well.
Yeah, I think you mentioned something in there that's a really good point, which is sort of like one of the best ways to motivate creators is to choose the right creators. Like I love the Red Bull example you had. Like if the streamer is always drinking a Red Bull, that's a natural sponsorship. Like all they have to do is just sort of mention it occasionally, bring it up, basic have sort of like, hey, there's a new Red Bull event coming on, like getting that sort of opportunity to mention specific things within Red Bull, maybe not the drink itself, but the things that Red Bull is doing. Like that's
Right.
an authentic conversation. They're already passionate about Red Bull. That's why they drink it every day. Like finding the right creators is very easy to motivate them because then it's already a good fit.
Right. Then they're already passionate about what it is you're doing. I mean, we talk about the creator economy, but a lot of times we talk about it in the lens of the passion economy.
Yep.
People out there that are creators are passionate about what they're doing. Sure, you and I are both passionate about, helping people ensure that their payments and that their entire business is scalable. But we also have our side hustles. We also have our things that are our hobbies on the side. For creators, what they're creating is their entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So it really needs to tie into multiple places and not just be single threaded in terms of how you connect and how you work with a sponsor.
Yeah, that's a good point. Cool. So this is the one thing that I wanted to talk about specifically, which is just sort of how you onboard and track their efforts. So I think this is just with any type of partnership, something you just have to keep in mind. I like to think of it as like, what if you're playing racquetball, except every time you hit the ball, like there's just a void on the other side, like a giant pit, and you just hit it into the pit and nothing happens. You're not going to be doing a lot of sports in that situation. Even if like a month later, 30 balls come back, you're probably not going to use that as like a fun activity, because without having that sort of transparency of feedback where you are taking action, like they are promoting Red Bull, if they do this big promotion of Red Bull and it's just like out of love and they partner, but there's nothing that like they're getting like immediate feedback from, and they have no idea of like who actually signed up for this Red Bull event, like who came, they're not going to want to do that again, because any sort of thing that's outside of their daily like routine as a creator, like you're asking them to take on a burden of like adding something new, some new promotion, taking time out of their normal pattern to sort of like mention something. So the only way that works is if you have some place where they have a place that they can log in, they can see how their results are performing, whatever offer you're running, whether it's like a virtual good or them just driving signups on your website. They need some place where they actually see how much they've driven, how much revenue they made, if there's revenue tied to it, and sort of all the events around it. So I think it's just the first thing to keep in mind is that if you want this to scale, they need that feedback. And so anything you're going to do there, you have to figure out how you're going to show them that their efforts led to something, whether it's like if it's monetary related or non-monetary related, they still need to know that their efforts led to something, or they're not going to be motivated to keep going.
Yeah, I think you put that really well. I mean, this is the perfect topic to discuss after motivation. And, so onboarding and tracking their efforts, this goes back to what we were talking about previously, like I said, around motivation, but also around having the right system so that they can have insight into what it is that they're doing. A lot of the time, creators are working with multiple brands, they're working with multiple platforms, and they know about which companies are giving them a better experience than others. They know which companies are giving them visibility into when they can expect to receive payment for a certain activation that they've done. With certain platforms, they might be able to track that. They might get instant payment notifications, or they might get nothing. And they might have to track down the finance person within an organization to get the money that they receive, that they completed work for. So I think in terms of how you do that, we can talk a lot about the aspects within Everflow and within Tipalti that can help you with that. But we can talk a little bit more about that maybe towards the end of the presentation and in follow-ups. But I think what's most important on this slide to take away is that having the ability to actually track that and having the effectiveness of campaigns is going to be a motivator for them to want to continue to do well with your specific campaign. It's almost like gamifying it for them. Streamers are very used to watching the number of concurrent streamers, that number go up while they're on YouTube or on Twitch. They're very used to watching the number of views that they get in a certain video. So really giving them that same visibility into, okay, how many conversions have they had on your website? How many affiliate links have people clicked based on the link that they've posted on LinkedIn? It's really like gamifying it for them. And like I said before, it's developing that two-way partnership that the creator feels just as responsible as the brand does for the success of the campaign. So establishing that two-way street is critical. And it only lends itself better to having the creator, if the creator is cued into the results that you're aiming for and can track where they're at on day 1, day 2, day 5, week 1, week 2, week 5, then they're going to have a lot better, it'll make their job a lot easier in terms of helping you reach your goals.
Yeah, one thing I want to expand on that too is just, you should always, with any promotions you're doing, always don't just look at the end of day revenue. The creators provide a whole lot more value than just driving, say, like sales or leads. Like, you want to look at all the other engagement events they're driving, as you were mentioning with like gamification. Like, if you can show them that the people that they sent from, say, their Twitch stream to your website, that they checked out videos, that they signed up for a newsletter, or they joined a certain community, these are all things that make them feel more like that they have more power and that they provide more value, and that's exciting. So don't make it all about money, but obviously, as we'll talk about it, money is an essential piece of this, because really most creators start as amateurs and side hustles, and the only way for them to scale is for them to take it from side hustle to full-time focus, and that involves money. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you said that really succinctly. It's, money talks, and if they can't make a living, if a creator can't make a living from what it is they're doing, they're going to have to go back and get a day job or a 9 to 5, or supplement with something else. So making it reasonable, or feasible rather, for a creator to be able to have their full stream of income come from their creations, it can be just as much the platform's role to help a creator get to that point, if the ROI is good enough for both sides. If the brand that is working with a particular creator is finding that the campaigns they're running are really lucrative, they need to think of a way that they can integrate them into the rest of what they're doing, into other campaigns that they're doing, so that they can kind of retain them and keep them happy on the platform, and ensure that they're making enough money to make this a full-time gig as opposed to a side hustle. So I think scaling the creators' promotions goes off in a lot of different ways. But what I would say is, going back to something that we talked about earlier, is understanding authentically who their audiences are and what audiences you could potentially reach through that audience. So if you have someone who's a creator and she has a network of moms, younger moms, and she can sell, new baby bottles or something like that for you, what are adjacent communities or adjacent audiences that you might want to be in touch with as well? Maybe it's the younger generation of engaged or married individuals that aren't quite ready to have babies yet, but are thinking about it. I think you see that a lot with the types of commercials out there, like, and this just clicked for me in the past few years, but if you watch a State Farm commercial today, State Farm's not advertising to me or to Michael or to to Ed or to Danielle. They're advertising to the next generation. They're advertising so that they can pick up clients that, when a 17-year-old is old enough to buy their first car and buy their first home, they're going to think about that cool State Farm commercial with Chris Paul, and they're going to say, hey, State Farm is the right place for me to go. And I think brands have that same opportunity today. A lot of creators, when you think of a creator, you might think of a younger person, you might think of a really tech savvy person, but they can not only help you capture the audience you need today, but they can also help you capture audiences well into the future. So you should really think of it as a brand, as a future looking play, not to just capture one thing right now. That's great. But thinking about how you can apply a certain creator's reach more holistically is critical to long-term success.
Mm-hmm. And one other thing I want to mention on scaling is that as a brand, you need to be able to track the ROI from these efforts, because if you don't know how much revenue you're making, you're also not going to want to keep working with the creator if you're just burning money on it. So it's your job to make sure you track it, and it's your job to make sure that the creators, as they become more professional and they start working on a more performance basis, that those creators are getting paid consistently, which leads to sort of what you've found on your side at Tipalti of sort of like why partners stop promoting.
Yep. Yeah. And I think a lot of what we've talked about today has led us well into this slide is, so what we're showing here is kind of what we think of as the golden partner experience. As a brand, you need to attract new partners to your platform. You need to retain the top platform partners on your platform, and then you need to constantly delight them so that they continue to stay on your platform, and they're used as mouthpieces to attract new people to your platform. If you have creators that are having a best-in-class experience, it's almost a guarantee that they're going to tell other creators that they should be using your platform for certain things. So as a TikTok, as a Canva, as an Etsy, it's really important for you to have the best tools to support a creator from A to Z. And that starts with, obviously the payment is important, but tax is important. The ability to understand that you're staying compliant is really important. The fact that you can be rest assured that there isn't going to be any fraud associated with your payments is really important. And we have a lot of these statistics here. What we found at Tipalti is that 74% of partners, and by partners we mean creators, would leave a platform because of a substandard payments experience. So for companies like I mentioned, the Canvas, the TikToks, the platforms where the creators go to make their art, they need to ensure that they have the best experience so that they can retain these best clients. And then we have some other stats there, from an onboarding perspective. Something we talked about at length is onboarding can be really manual in terms of, if you want to get paid by a certain company, make that experience really easy. Make it e-commerce like, where you're entering in information. Everyone has had the experience where they entered in their credit card 1 digit off, and the site tells them without letting them go forward. And that's the same experience that creators should expect from businesses that they're working with. When they enter in their tax ID number, when they enter in their social security number, they shouldn't have to, recheck it 3 or 4 times. The system should automatically tell them, flag it in red when it's wrong. And that makes the onboarding experience better. And choices of payment method. It shouldn't just be a check. It's great to get paid by a check. Everyone loves to get paid, obviously, and sometimes it doesn't matter, but make that easier. Make it a digital payment method. Make it an ACH. Make it a wire. Make it PayPal. Make it the ways that make your life easier to get paid, as opposed to, here's a paper check, now I have to go to the bank, or now I have to do something else. Make it easier for your partners. Same thing on partner management. This ties in well with onboarding. What if something changes? What if you have, a new LLC that you want to get paid through? Making that easy for the partner to maintain and change their personal information by using your platform, just like a seamless e-commerce experience, is great. And it makes it a lot easier. And then finally, on global payments, you might be working with a streamer as a platform. You might be working with a streamer or a gamer or a developer overseas, and it can be a real challenge. They might want to get paid in Australian dollars, but you can only pay them out in USD. Having the ability to let your creators select the method that they're getting paid in anywhere on the globe, is going to make their experience so much more delightful of working with you. And you need to ensure that you're continuing to delight your customers and keeping up with the most modern ways of working with them. So those are just a few examples of what we see as why it's really, really important to have these logistics sorted out, because it can cost you some of your best creators, some of the best influencers on your platform if it's not sorted out properly.
Yeah, I think one other thing to mention on this is that this kind of goes back to what you were saying about creators wanting to have ongoing relationships rather than one-offs, because it's
Yep.
really easy in the early days maybe get a couple different opportunities where you're doing a little bit of promotions for each of them, and each one owes you $80 or $100 or something. Like just doing the paperwork and handling that sometimes is so frustrating that like you don't want to ever do this again with anyone.
Right.
So like the easier you make every additional like tedious step sort of like streamlined, the better it is for the partner to just keep going and to be happy with what they're doing, because they want to focus on creating, they don't want to focus on this stuff.
Yeah, and something we hear a lot is exactly around that, is like it's almost not worth it to get the $500 that I'm owed because it was such a painful experience. And I think something that goes hand in hand with that is no one likes doing their taxes. So if you have a platform that can help you generate the right tax forms, and when tax season rolls around as a creator, you don't have to worry like, did I get my W-9 from Canva? Did I get my 1099 from Canva? When you don't have to worry about that and it's just automatically sent to you, that makes your life a whole lot easier. I know a lot of creators out there. I know a lot of entrepreneurs out there that have such complicated tax forms. They don't have the luxury of having a W-2 or something like that. And it's only getting more complicated, with regulations that the Biden administration is imposing, with anyone who makes over $600 from a side hustle or a creative gig needs to report that on their taxes. The companies that are making it easier for their creators to report that are going to be the ones that win out.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. All right, and where do you see sort of the future of the creator economy?
Yeah, I think I have lots of thoughts around the future of the creator economy. I can latch into maybe one or two that I think are really, really important. So through my journey of learning more about the creator economy, I've really taken an interest in the gaming side of things. And I think why I like gaming so much is because it has the ability to touch lots of different industries and ecosystems within the creator economy. One of my favorite examples that we learned about early on is the fact that a game like Fortnite was hosting and continues to host concerts within their gameplay. So that's not only combining the creators that are gaming on Fortnite, it's also combining fans of music that want to just go and see a concert. And it's also combining, the fashion within that, for when you show up to the concert. When you go to a concert in person, you think about the t-shirt you're wearing, you think about the jeans you're wearing, you think about the sneakers you're wearing. It's the same thing when you go to a virtual concert. You're thinking about what your character, who's a reflection of you, looks like at that concert. So I think gaming is a really, really interesting angle. We're starting to see a lot of non-endemic gaming brands start to break into that space. I think last year, one of my other favorite examples goes along with what I was saying earlier, is there's new Gucci skins that you can buy in Fortnite, and it's a statement piece, just like it is to have a Gucci belt in the real world. It's a statement piece to have that in the metaverse or in the game that you're playing. So I think what we'll see is we'll start to see a little bit of the blending of the two. We talk about them as very distinct today, the metaverse and the real world. I think they're the same. I spend upwards of 10 hours on my computer watching screens or whatever it is all day. So what makes that any less of the real world than it is for me on the day-to-day basis? So I think we'll start to see a blend of the metaverse with the non-virtual world, or the real world, or whatever we want to call it. And what we'll see there is, a little bit of a blending of some of the personas, of some of the creators' characteristics. And we've already seen that as a good example of one that a lot of people know about is Ninja, one of the top gamers in the world. His image in the game is his image in real life. So we're starting to see that blending, and that contributes to that authenticity of being able to connect with the right people. Sure, Ninja's not the right influencer for every company, but if you're trying to reach certain audiences, if you're trying to reach the gaming community, and you need to have an authentic creator to do that, then Ninja is a great bet. So I think that's what we'll see. We'll start to see a little bit of a blending of the two worlds. We'll start to see creators being applied to campaigns in very specific ways, which we've already seen before, but we'll also see them starting to be used on a more retainer type scale, which I mentioned a little bit earlier.
Yeah, we're almost out of time, but I won't try and briefly cover the other way that I see the creator economy like skyrocketing, which is in the world of NFTs. And for anyone who's not familiar with NFTs, other than hearing it over and over again, it's sort of like any sort of like creation, whether it's like art, like artwork, music, etc., can be turned into like this like NFT, and then it's supposed to be this permanent object that can be always existing within like this sort of like confirmed world of the blockchain, where like that is a permanent thing. You permanently own this artwork. So we're in the sort of the early days, and a lot of it to me is complete nonsense. And I think that's also reflected by the fact that there's been like I just saw something like 80 or 90% of the value of NFTs has already dropped off because everyone was going a little bit tulip madness on it of anything becoming an NFT, but we'll start to find the winners of that, which is like the ones that people actually consider to have true value, whether these are like the Bored Ape Yacht Club and things like that. But the other piece of that is as NFTs start to get more used in this metaverse, where there's games like, I mean, it'll probably be new games, but we already see that with things like Fortnite or Roblox, where it's like someone creates something and it's like a permanent thing that now people are sharing and they're paying real money for it. As these NFTs start to become things that you start seeing when you're playing new games, like your NFT artwork is already there on a wall, where it starts to have like true value and fits in with like the fun of games and stuff like that. I think that's the other piece of this is going to be like crypto is a huge new money source for creators, and the more money flowing into creators, the more creators that are going to be out there. And regardless of whether you're involved with NFTs, it just means that it's just like rocket fuel for people going from side hustles to full-time creators. And the more full-time creators, the more opportunities there's going to be for future growth.
Yeah, I think you said that really well.
Cool. Any parting thoughts on the creator economy?
I think parting thoughts would be, if any of what Michael and I had mentioned is resonating with you today, I think it would be a great idea to start a conversation with us, with Everflow and with Topolti, about how we can ensure that you're delivering a best-in-class partner experience, best-in-class creator experience to your clients, to the brands you're working with, to the creators you're working with. And I think that's my biggest takeaway here is that Topolti and Everflow are really set out to help this creator economy continue to grow and continue to scale.
Mm-hmm.
And our businesses are already supporting hundreds of companies in this realm already. And we'd love to chat with you and learn more about what it is we can do to help you take your business to the next level and ensure you're providing that best-in-class support to creators.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you want to work with creators, you need to solve a few things, which is just how do you track the sort of like what happens with that creator? How do you onboard that creator to make sure that they have some place to see all the results that they're driving? And finally, how do you make sure that those partners are getting paid for anything that you can pay them on? Because that's what's going to let them keep scaling their efforts, and that's what's going to let them basically go from small time to big time really quickly. If you have consistent, reliable revenue for them, like they can do more and more with you. All right. Thank you so much, Evan, and everyone. Hope you have a wonderful day.